Anywhere I go in the Baptist house.
One more time. See, we've talked a lot in the book study, see, and about the numbers of people who come into AA and the numbers who return to drinking. It's better than 90%. See? What do all these people fail to realize while they're here? See, they fail to realize, see, that they're really alcoholics. They fail to realize the severity of the problem, see, and what the basic trouble actually is. See? We fail to carry the message to them. See? They leave here ignorant, and they get drunk, and they die. See? I mean, to you, I didn't say the point is we're willing to grow along spiritual lines. I mean, you either say it's either a matter of life and death, or it's not. Okay? It's a fatal disease, or it's not a fatal disease. There's a solution to it, or there's not a solution to it. This is the basic trouble, or it's not the basic trouble. See, it doesn't say this is sort of like, nearly, perhaps, kind of, almost, perhaps the basic trouble. Yeah.
This is it.
There's no weasel words in here. See, there's no excuses. See, they don't excuse themselves, see, and they don't give us any room to excuse ourselves. I mean, it's either true or it's false. See, and we just want to look at it like rational adults and see if it's true. And if it's true, then see, we ought to become convinced by looking at that we really do need a spiritual solution. Okay, let's do the last part of this paragraph and then take a break. Let's go over that sentence again. Do not his actions, see, that means what I do, make each of them wish to retaliate. I'm violating spiritual laws here, which snatching all they can get out of the show. And then I blame them for the collisions and the selfishness. I judge them, and I have opinions, and I leave them, see? And I eliminate them, and I do all this stuff, see, because they're fucking selfish. Not me. It's not my fault. Okay? It says, is he not, even in his best moments? See, look at your best moments. See, a producer of confusion rather than harmony. Now, the easiest way to look at that sentence is look at every relationship you've ever had and ask yourself how much harmony has there been. See, I've had some excitement and some lust and some love and some warm, gooey moments and, you know, that kind of stuff with women in my life. I've never had a harmonious relationship with them. The family I grew up in was confusion. There wasn't harmony. Every place I've ever worked, confusion, not harmony. Everywhere I go, there's confusion, not harmony. I come to AA, see, I was confused. I listened. Everybody else seems confused. We got this book. Now the book's not true. See? We have harmony. See? How many messages does a newcomer hear in the first 90 meetings he goes to? A couple hundred? See? No harmony. Everybody's got their own program. No harmony. You can do what you want. No, you can't do what you want. Do this, do that, do something else. It's all confusion. It's not harmony. What is that all evidence of? Self-will. But look at your own experience. Okay? Even in your best moments, the best that ever got in your life. See, I look at that. See, the clearest I ever got was confused. See, the best that ever got in my life. I was absolutely confused about what was going on. With me and everybody else. Unclear. See? And that is all a result of my own self-will. It's not a result of other people's self-will and other people's selfishness.
And you really wanted harmony.
Yeah.
And he kept coming up with confusion.
You think you could be harmonious with people if you experience satisfaction and happiness in your life? Sure. It's pretty amazing. Let's take a break. And then, everybody doing all right? We're on the bottom of page 61. First two words are our actor. If you saw yourself in the description of the actor that we just went over, say cross off the word actor and put somebody's name there. Does your name go there? Am I the actor? that me? Do I produce confusion rather than harmony? Is my basic trouble self-centeredness? Is it evident to all the rest of the players? You begin to see that, be open-minded to that. Our actor is what? Self-centered. For years, I have been reading self-help books and religious books and spiritual books of all kinds, and they talk about self-centeredness all the time, and I never ever applied that term to myself. I would read it and I go, yep, that's Betty, yep, that's my dad, yep, that's my mom, yep, that's my brother, yep, that's my friends. But never did I apply the term self-centered to me. But if that description is accurate, then the truth is I am self-centered. I don't want to think that. I want to think I'm this kind, wonderful guy who really means well and is trying hard and has other people's best interests at heart, but maybe the truth is otherwise. Our actor is self-centered, egocentric, as people like to call it nowadays. We only like to call it that when we attach that label to somebody else. We don't like to call it that when we are talking about us. He's like, and they're going to give us 5 examples. He's like the retired businessman who lolls in the Florida sunshine in the winter complaining of the sad state of the nation. We take that example and we can apply it to some modern day kind of people. Businessmen got in collision, based on self-will. I heard of guys like Michael Milliken, Ivan Boesky, John DeLorean, Lee Iacocca. These guys are quite, Donald Trump is a pretty good example. Just businessmen. Does it look like these folks are self-centered? Do they get in a lot of collisions? Whose will are they operating on? You see them as an actor. The minister who sighs over the sins of the 20th century. Can you name a couple of ministers who've been in some pretty major collisions recently?
Brady.
Yeah. Swaggart. Jim Baker. You think that was God's will? What is the requirement, that we are trying to be convinced of? Any life run on self-will. Regardless of what we claim. We can know all kinds of stuff. But what are we actually doing? Running our lives on self-will. What does that produce? Collision. Politicians and reformers who are sure all would be utopia if the rest of the world would only behave. Can you name a couple of politicians and reformers who seem to be perhaps running on self-will, self-centered, and got into some collision? Remember Watergate? All the people involved there? That looked like a pretty big collision. How about some of the Russian reformers? All over the world, we see a lot of politicians and reformers. They would get in collisions of various kinds. People hold them up as great political leaders, and these guys are successful, and they mean well. And see, but what is the evidence? Collisions. What produces collisions? Self-will. The outlaw safecracker who thinks society has wronged him. You ever watched a show where they interviewed guys in prison? How many of them say, I'm here because I'm selfish and self-centered? How many of them say, society, the ghetto, white people, black people, politicians, the legal, my lawyer, somebody wronged me. They took away my liberty, all that kind of stuff. The outlaw, why is he there? The outlaw safecracker, he thinks society has wronged him. Where does he think that? And the last example is the alcoholic. So we've got 5 non-alcoholics and the alcoholic. The alcoholic who's lost all and is locked up. And who thinks it's somebody else's fault. And who comes into AA and still thinks it's somebody else's fault. Now whatever our protestations, to protest means not me. I protest. Yes, this is true about you guys. Yes, this is true about some of those people in the meetings that I hear, but it's not true about me. So whatever our protestations are not, most of us, look around in this room. What do we see here? Something called us. Look around the room. There's us in this room. Now, how many are included in the word most when we talk about us in this room? Who's excluded? Are you excluded? Are not most of us concerned, see, with what? Ourselves, our resentments, or our self-pity? See, are you excluded? Is that your real concern? Say, no, I'm concerned about other people. Say, no, I'm doing it for them. See, I mean well, I'm not this way, I'm not self-centered. True or false? Whatever our protestations are, not most of us concerned with us, ourselves, our resentments, or our self-pity. Keep your finger right there on that sentence. And go back to page 20. That sentence we keep going back to on the top of page 20, where it says, our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend on being concerned about ourselves and having a selfish program. Right? Is that what it says? No. Our very lives as ex-problem drinkers depend on what? Constant thought of others and action, how we may help meet their needs. Being of service, getting from where we are to our 12th step. So those two sentences, see, are mutually exclusive. Okay? We're, see, one is, see, we are in one of those two places. See, if we are in the self-centered place, see, we are certain to drink again, because that, if you remember chapter 3, is a state of mind that precedes the relapse of the drinking. The statement on page 20, see, this is the altruistic place that a spiritually awakened person who has finished the steps gets to. It doesn't say our lives depend on being perfect and not making any mistakes. It doesn't say that our lives depend on knowing all the answers. Okay? It doesn't say our lives depend on being wonderful human beings. It says our lives depend on a constant thought of others and how we may help meet their needs. It's very simple. How do we get from one to the other? We got to start where we are, okay? So we all have to admit our own self-centeredness. So whatever our back on page 62 now, whatever our protestations are, not most of us concerned with ourselves, our resentments, or our self-pity. Okay, selfishness and self-centeredness, complete sentence, exclamation point. Okay, selfishness and self-centeredness, exclamation point. Okay, that, we think, is the root of our troubles. Okay, now, there aren't any plants in here, are there? Okay, let's say there's a plant. Let's say this is a planter, there is a plant. See, it's growing out like this. If I take a pair of scissors and I go, see, and I cut all the leaves and the stems and everything off this plant, what's going to happen? It'll grow right back. See, what generally happens to a plant that you prune? Gets thicker. Okay? So look at your experience. How many times have you pruned, see, your plant, see, and still had page 52 be the truth in your life? See? How many ideas, how many theories, see, how many self-helps, how many self-wills, how many discussions, how many thoughts, how many tries, how many to the best of your abilities, how many weeps, how many angers, how many fears, see, have you launched at this and still had it grow back? Okay? Now, if I wanted the plant, see, to die, see, then the solution is not to prune it. It's to get the roots out. See? Then I know that the plant is not going to grow back. That's the one and only way to do it. Make sense? Okay, now let's look at the sentence. Selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the, what's the next word? Root of our troubles. Okay, just close your eyes for a minute. Close your eyes and take a quick inventory of the troubles that you face in your life. Okay. Right now, where is your misery and your depression coming from? Okay. What relationships do you have trouble with? Okay. How much fear do you have? Okay. How much anger do you have? How many collisions do you get into every day? Okay. And with who? Okay. All right. So just take a look at that and ask yourself, is it possible that the root of every bit of that, okay, is my own selfishness and self-centeredness? Is that even possible? It's kind of an enormous change in our point of view, isn't it? Okay. But the thing that we can notice is that if we can see the truth of that in our own experience, see, then something called hope appears. See? Because then there can be a solution. The instant you can admit that, see, is the instant you will begin to see that there is a solution. Because as long as we are, see, blaming our troubles on other people and we are powerless over what other people do, we're doomed. We will drink again. And the instant we can be responsible, see, and see that the root of our troubles with all whatever areas of our life, see, is our own selfishness and self-centeredness, that is precisely the point where we can begin to sniff that there is a solution. See, if I can be changed. Selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Okay, what's the next word you see? Driven. It doesn't say driving, does it? It doesn't say choosing. It says driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. Okay? We want to think we're choosing. Okay? But just take a couple of honest looks at, the next time you get in a hurry. Okay? What is this thing we call a hurry? Okay? It's being driven. By some fear, self-delusion, self-seeking. That's what a hurry is. Okay? I used to ride around in a 4-door hurry all the time. Bought a brand new one every year. See, next time you're real worried and upset, what's going on? You're being driven, see, by some form of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, or self-pity. Next time you're in an argument, take a look. Why is that? What is that? Being driven, some form of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, or self-pity. See, it's always there. See, in all of these troubles, all of these collisions. See, all you got to do is look. There it is. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. What do? We step on the toes of our fellows. Once again, that's cause. What do? Retaliate. That's effect. Spiritual law, one more time. See? So we don't have a choice. We're driven. In the state of being driven, we do something that hurts somebody else. See? What do they do back? Wham. We now have a collision. All kinds of horrible stuff can begin to happen, and often does. See? We think we have a choice. See? Do you have a choice? Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Okay? Sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation. Provocation, see, means being provoked. See? I didn't do anything to you, so why are you doing that to me? See, that's what it looks like. See? She's doing it to me, he's doing it to me, but I didn't do anything to them. See, that's seemingly without provocation. See? But, see, it's real interesting. Every time you see but in the book, there's something very powerful always follows a but in the book. But we invariably find. Now, invariable means almost without exception. Find. Now, in order to find something, what do you have to do?
Look.
You got to take a look. Okay, so we almost without exception, almost always, invariably find that at some time in the past, okay, we have made decisions based on what? Self. Okay, which did what? Placed us in a position to be hurt. So when you get hurt, if this is true, see, who's responsible? If this is true. Yeah, I am. See, if I get hurt, see, and I'm honest with myself, I will find out that I placed myself in that position. So it's not what somebody else is doing, it's what are these decisions that are placing me in these positions to be hurt over and over and over again. Now, if you remember in chapter 3, we went through the whole example of the jaywalker. Everybody remember the jaywalker? And we looked at it in terms of alcoholism. Remember it says if we substituted alcoholism for jaywalking, the illustration would fit us exactly. What if we substituted personal relationships for jaywalking? Would the illustration fit us exactly? What if we substituted careers, working, jobs for jaywalking? Would the illustration fit us exactly? Okay, what if we substituted sex, okay, for jaywalking? Would the illustration fit us exactly? What if we substituted anger? What if we substituted self-will? Okay, what if we substituted fear? a whole lot of things we can substitute for jaywalking, and it would still do what? Fit us exactly. What is the basic trouble? Selfishness, self-centeredness, getting us in collision. So sometimes they hurt us seemingly without provocation, but we invariably find that at some time in the past we have made decisions based on self which later placed us in a position to be hurt. No, it's not my fault, it's their fault. Because as long as it's their fault, it's going to keep happening. Doomed. As long as we're blaming somebody else, we're doomed. And if page 52 stays true in your life, do you think you'll be able to stay sober? Most people in AA think they can. How many actually do? About 1 out of 10, 2 out of 100. Not very many. Everybody thinks they're going to make it. Very few actually do. Say, why is that? Don't believe this. This is not true. But I read it. It's all true about me. So we all need to look at our own experience. What time you got? We got lunch. 9 o'clock.
5 till.
Right, Joe? Okay, why don't we stop there, and then we'll go over the remainder of the decision stuff next week. We don't have enough time to get through it tonight. Okay, anybody got any questions about this? If you don't, let me just show you one more thing. Let's go back to page 60. Remember when we started the discussion of the actor? See, I asked you to look at your own experience and then look at people that you have lived with, families and all that. Did any of you see that this is true? Did you see any other actors in your life? See, other than yourself? Okay, now we're going to raise this up a level. I'm going to read the whole thing again. I'm going to substitute some words here, so just follow along with me. Okay, the first requirement is that the world be convinced that any nation run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, the nations are almost always at war, in collision, with something or somebody, even when their motives are good. Most nations try to live by self-propulsion. Each nation is like an actor who wants to run the whole show. He's forever trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the world, nations, and all that in his own way. If his arrangements would only stay put, let's substitute Uncle Sam here. If Uncle Sam's arrangements would only stay put, if only the rest of the world would do as Uncle Sam wanted, what would happen? The show would be great. Peace, democracy. We'd all be happy. Everybody, including Uncle Sam, would be pleased. Life would be wonderful. Trying to make these arrangements, Uncle Sam may sometimes be quite virtuous. He may be kind, considerate, patient, generous, even modest and self-sacrificing. On the other hand, Uncle Sam can be mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest. But as with most nations, he's more likely to have varied traits. What usually happens? The show doesn't come off very well. He begins to think the world doesn't treat him right. He decides to exert himself more. He becomes on the next occasion still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. Still, the play does not suit him. Admitting he may be somewhat at fault, Uncle Sam is sure that the rest of the world is more to blame. So it's the Japanese doing what they're doing, and it's Saddam Hussein doing what they're doing, and the people controlling all that, all that stuff. He becomes angry, indignant, self-pitying. What is his basic trouble? Is he not really a self-seeking nation, even when trying to be kind? Is he not a victim of the delusion that he can wrest satisfaction and happiness out of this world if he only manages it well? Is it not evident to all the rest of the players that these are the things he wants? Do not his actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Is he not, even in his best moments, a producer of what? How much harmony do you see? Look at the world you live in. Weird, isn't it?
No.
Really amazing. You can take that. I mean, if you work in an organization for a company, you might just apply that example to the organization or company that you work for. You can substitute major religions here. There's just all kinds of things that you can substitute. Take a look. See, truth is just truth. It seems to apply to human endeavors. But the number one thing that we want to look at is this true about us? And we have to be convinced that it is the truth about us if we are going to take these steps. The unconvinced people can't make the decision that's required at step 3. We're not talking about saying a prayer. We're talking about making a major life-changing decision. So we're going to need to look so you can see whether it's true. Next paragraph. So our troubles. Close your eyes for a minute. Take a look. What troubles do you have in your life? Whatever they are. Mental, emotional, spiritual, relationships, financial. What kind of troubles do you have right now? What does this sentence say? Our troubles, we think, are basically what? Of our own making. What's the easiest thing in the world to do? Blame somebody else. That's the world's easiest occupation, is to blame somebody else and absolve ourselves of any responsibility for what's going on. We are victims. But victims don't get to stay sober. And that's the problem here. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. And as we read this and begin to look at your own experience, you might also begin to hearken back to a lot of the sharing that you hear in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Okay? You hear a lot of people taking responsibility for what's going on in their lives. Okay? The root of the troubles. Our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves. It's very interesting to look at in your own experience. I mean, just you think back to sometime when you got angry, see, and ask yourself, does anger start in your mind and travel downward? See, or does it start down here somewhere and arise out of you? Come up and out. Look at when you get angry. See? Look at when fear comes up. See, why do we say words like comes up? See, fear comes up, anger arises, see, pain comes up. See, this stuff always seems to come up. See, it doesn't start up and go down. See, so it doesn't start in your mind, does it? See, these troubles arise, all the troubles we have, out of ourselves. See, they come up and go out. Okay? They arise out of ourselves. Okay? An alcoholic, how many alcoholics we got in here? Okay? Is an extreme example of self-will run riot. Okay, close your eyes. Okay. Now, what is your picture of an alcoholic who's running riot? Okay, what does that look like? When you hear those words, say, what's the picture you get in your mind? Okay, is that picture you? Okay, or is it somebody else? Okay, maybe somebody you know or some stereotype that you have? Okay, I'm a kind, considerate, modest, gracious, and self-sacrificing person. I am not running riot. See, it's what we all tell ourselves. Okay? I'm not an extreme example of that. Okay? I know those guys. I've heard about Tom. Tom's an extreme example of self-will run riot. I'm not like that. Okay? So the misery I have is not of my own making, but his clearly is. Okay? That's the way we start looking at this stuff. Okay? Look at the troubles in your life. Okay? Are the troubles in your life an example of an alcoholic, see, whose self-will, see, has run riot? Whatever troubles you have, not what everybody else is doing or what your pictures are. Okay? Those are the kind of questions I had to start to ask myself. Okay? The alcoholic, so if you're an alcoholic, cross out the word alcoholic, put your name there. See if you can bite down and swallow that one. Okay? That's a tough one. I am an extreme example of self-will run riot? No way. I'm cool, calm, collected, and just fine. Thank you very much. Wrong. Okay, so they arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is, it doesn't say could be, might be, the alcoholic is an extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Do you generally think of yourself as an alcoholic whose self-will is running riot? Is that your view of yourself? See, very few of us take that view. But that's a view that we need to take. It's about being responsible for what's going on with us.
Where does that arise? Where do we think that?
Yeah, if you don't think something, where don't you think it? And where's the main problem of an alcoholic? Extreme example of self-will, though he usually doesn't think so. Okay, so Have y'all, somewhere along the line, been in the playground, in a park? You take kids down there and they got slides and swings and sand pits and all that kind of stuff. They generally have these little merry-go-round things. You can put 10, 15 kids on these little metal merry-go-rounds, and they have little bars that come out and look pie-shaped. And if you put 15 kids on one of those things, see, some of the kids are going to go right to the middle of it. See, and there's always going to be one kid who's going to sit on the center post. And then some of them are halfway out. Some of them are out on the edge here. And then there's the kids who are on the ground. The other ones doing this, and they're jumping on and off. See, and as the kids out here get this thing going, see, the ones in the middle start going, not so fast, not so fast. See, and some of them cry and they do all this stuff. See, the ones outside are just having a ball. They're just like, fuck you, they're just going for it. And they jump on and off and they're doing all this stuff. See? Now, they're all on the same merry-go-round. See, but the ones in the middle are going pretty slow. Not too risky, not too dangerous. See, in there? And out on the edge, see, is where the kids fall off, break their collarbones, cut their lips, scrape their shins, see? And it's just because things go faster out on the edge than they do in the middle. Make sense? See, but everybody's on the same merry-go-round. See, they're all playing the same game. See, they're just standing in different spots. See? The alcoholics, see, of the world, see, in a world of selfishness and self-centeredness, they are just out on the lunatic fringe. Where it's a lot more exciting and a lot more fun, and at the same time it's riskier and more dangerous, and you get hit more. So the alcoholic is simply an extreme example of what we were looking at last week in terms of most people are running on self-propulsion. Most people, whether they are kind, considerate, gracious, and self-sacrificing, or whether they're mean, egotistical, selfish, and dishonest, or whether they're some of both, are all running on self-will. Basically self-seeking. Whether their motives are good or not good, all that stuff we looked at last week. Okay. So, but we don't think so, right? Right. Okay, what are the next two words you see? Above everything. Okay, close your eyes again. Now, while your eyes are closed, get a picture of everything you have ever wanted in your life, ever since you were a little kid. All the goodies the world has ever dangled in front of you. Fame, fortune, a better body, the perfect marriage, trips, cars, jewelry, clothes, whatever it is you ever want. Just pile it all up right in front of you. Leave a little room in your pile in case you forget something. Just take a look at everything you have ever wanted. Just make a big pile. Everybody got that? At least some sort of a picture of all that stuff? Okay, now look at the sentence again. It says above everything. All right, now you got everything piled right in front of you right now. You now have a look at it. Okay, so above everything. So something has to come above everything you just piled up, right? Okay, above everything, we alcoholics must, no musts in the program, right? Take what you like, leave the rest, ignore this kind of stuff. Okay, we alcoholics must be rid of this what?
Selfishness.
Look at your pile of everything. See, you see any selfishness in it? See, has anybody got service and honesty in your pile? Stuff like that? You got truth in your pile? Loyalty in your pile? Or you got selfish stuff in your pile? See? What selfishness, we say to ourselves.
How come you're so subtle, man? Why?
Did we call it gold selfish?
See, read the sentence again. See, be very clear what they're saying here. Above everything, we alcoholics, we must be rid of this selfishness. Okay, now let's all read the next sentence together out loud, and let's emphasize the must. We must
Or it kills us.
It's not really the booze, see, that kills alcoholics. It's selfishness and self-centeredness. What is it that gets you into collisions?
Me.
See, what is it that will lead you to a collision with a bottle, a drink, joint, drugs? Some kind of selfishness and self-centeredness. See, so the root of the trouble isn't the drugs and it isn't the alcohol. The root of the trouble is the selfishness and self-centeredness that will literally kill. Now that's either the truth or it's blatantly false. You got to make your own decision. It's true for me. I can see the truth of that in my own experience. Okay, we must be rid of it. I'm not selfish. I'm the kind considering. See, that's false self-esteem. Okay, so the two sentences, once again, above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness, or it's selfishness. And they're often seen, we must or it kills us. Okay? And God makes that possible. So it's real interesting. You can read that sentence from a couple of different points of view. What selfishness, we say to ourselves.
How come you're so subtle, man?
Gold, selfish.
See, read the sentence again. Be very clear what they're saying here. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. Okay, now let's all read the next sentence together out loud, and let's emphasize the must. We must,
or he kills us.
It's not really the booze, see, that kills alcoholics. It's selfishness and self-centeredness. What is it that gets you into collisions? Yeah. See, what is it that will lead you to a collision with a bottle, a drink, joint, drug? Some kind of selfishness and self-centeredness. See, so the root of the trouble isn't the drugs and it isn't the alcohol. The root of the trouble is the selfishness and self-centeredness that will literally kill. Now that's either the truth or it's blatantly false. You got to make your own decision. It's true for me. Yeah, I can see the truth of that in my own experience. Okay, we must be rid of this. I'm not selfish. I'm the kind considering. See, that's false self-esteem. Okay, so the two sentences, once again, above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness, or it's selfishness. And they're often seen, we must or it kills us. Okay? And God makes that possible. Okay? It's real interesting. You can read that sentence from a couple of different points of view. See, you're absolutely free to kill yourself. See, everybody in this room is absolutely free to kill themselves. God will not intervene. It's a real interesting thing about God is God doesn't play God. Only human beings play God. See, God just seems to be available to anybody who wants to find a solution. Okay? Turns no one down. Okay? But we're all free to kill ourselves. Okay? And this is how we'll do it, literally. All you got to do is look at your own experience. Look at your experience of alcoholics you've seen die so far in AA. Okay? So God makes that possible. See, and you can read that sentence two ways. It's real interesting. Okay? So it's possible to go ahead and die. See, it's also possible to recover. One's up to you. Okay, and there often seems no way of, and you might underline the next 5 words. Entirely, that means complete, getting rid of what? All right, now if someone is trying to get self-esteem, are they trying to get entirely rid of self? If someone is seeking, see, to increase their self-confidence, see, are they trying to get rid of self? If someone is trying to be self-assertive or self-disciplined, are they trying to be entirely rid of self? So you can't have a foot in both buckets. See, we're either seeking a spiritual solution or we're seeking a mental one. See, now all this self stuff is mental and emotional stuff. It gets passed around by Alcoholics Anonymous members and attenders as the program, but that's not the program. Never was the program. Okay? So now a lot of people think it is the program, see, but it isn't. See, and that's a fact. How do we know that's a fact? What does your book say? See, who wrote the book? Why do you think they wrote that? See, there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self, see, without his aid. Without whose aid? God's aid. Okay. See, we have to be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. See, and people seeking self things are still self-seeking. See? Does that seem pretty clear to everybody? See? An alcoholic seeking self-confidence is still a self-seeker. See? An alcoholic seeking self-esteem is still a self-seeker. It's very clear. See? Now, I don't think we did this last week, so ask yourself a question. What is the value of self-confidence and self-esteem? See, what is it exactly that people do with those things once they go through whatever they got to go through to acquire them? See, they're held up to us kind of as these baubles that if we get them, our lives are going to work. See, all you got to do is be self-confident. All you got to have is good self-esteem, high self-esteem, and your life will work. Haven't you been told that? Haven't you had that message come your way? Yeah, okay, so we go through all this stuff, see, that we go through. There's endless ways out there in the world that try to teach people how to increase their self-esteem and self-confidence. So let's say we go do that. See, we increase our self-esteem and our self-confidence. Now what do we have? What have we achieved? What are we going to do with the increased self-confidence and the increased self-esteem that we now have acquired? See, can you eat it? Can you eat self-esteem? Can you put it in a bank account? Can you hide it under the bed and hope it'll grow? See, what is it? Can you carry it around in your wallet or your purse? See, can you wear it like a badge or a coat so everybody knows about it? No. See, there's only one thing that anybody can do with those things. That's its purpose. See, we rely on it to do what? Provide power in our lives. That's the only thing anybody can do, is to rely on it. See? So we go through all this stuff to get it. See? And once we get it, we rely on it to do what? To get what we want, to make our lives work. Oh, now I'm self-confident, now I can make that sale. Now I'm self-confident, now I can ask her for a date. See? Now I'm self-confident, and I have to take shit from waiters in restaurants. See? See? Now, see, I'm going to rely on that. Okay? Does that make sense? Now, if you got a human being, see, who is relying on themselves, is that human being going to rely on God?
No.
No. See, they've been misled from the get-go. See? You can't have a foot in both buckets. It's one or the other. See? This is all self stuff. See? And relying on God is a totally different deal. See? People who are self-confident aren't powerless, are they? They've got power. See? People with self-esteem have power. People who are seeking all that stuff, see, don't admit that they are powerless. Still do not understand the hopeless nature of the disease of alcoholism. And I just can't tell you how many self-confident people I've seen go get drunk. See? Self-confident people and people with great self-esteem go get drunk all the time. See? So they're relying on that, see, and they seem to get drunk again. People who are humble enough to take the steps and make a decision, see, clean house, trust God, make their amends, see, don't seem to get drunk again. Okay, so these are some things. See, there they are in the book. Check them out for yourself. Okay. What's going to work? What are you seeking? What do you really want? What do you value? What do you think is important? What have you come to believe? People who have come to believe that self-confidence and self-esteem is going to solve their problem have not taken the second step. That's pretty clear. Okay. Why? Okay. They're seeking something that they think will restore their lives to order. Okay. And it sure ain't God. Does that make sense to you? Okay. To me, this is, has become very simple, very clear. Okay. It's right in the book. I read it many times when I was new and didn't understand it at all. Okay. Check it for yourself. I'll get to your question in a minute, Joe. Okay, so, and there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self. See, now that's clearly what the book says. It's clearly what the people who wrote the book intended it to say. See? And it's not so clearly the message in many of our meetings and groups anymore. See? It can get very confusing. See, the amount of other kinds of stuff, see, that goes in here, see, and it makes this all hard to understand. Okay, many of us had moral and philosophical convictions. Remember what convictions are? Just beliefs. Galore. Galore means up the yin-yang. So we were, we knew the difference. In other words, we knew the difference between right and wrong. And we did wrong. Okay? And we knew what it was all about philosophically. Okay? And failed anyway. We have these moral convictions and these philosophical convictions even when we're sober, and what happens? Our lives still don't work. See? There's some really, really smart people in AA. I mean, way, way smarter than I could ever pretend to be. I mean, giant philosophical convictions and understandings of morality and all that stuff. See? And they go get drunk. And they know this stuff up the yin-yang. See? And they go get drunk. See? So many of you might look, see whether you're a huge intellect or whether you've not done much investigation of that stuff at all. See, you will probably find in yourself moral and philosophical convictions. See, probably a lot of them about what's right and wrong and good and bad and see how things work and all that sort of stuff. And have your convictions or beliefs been sufficient to keep you sober? Do they work, see, practically in your life? Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore. I sure did. See? But we could not live up to them. No power. That was our dilemma. So it's not even that the convictions are bad or wrong. It's no matter how good they are, see, we can't seem to live up to them. See? We live down to something else. Could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. And neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much. See, and people, there are a lot of folks in AA trying to do this, see, and it's almost heartbreaking to watch. See, neither could we reduce our self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on our own power. See, I mean, if you listen closely, see, there are people in AA who know that they're selfish and self-centered. You can hear them talking about it, and you can hear the struggle they're going through to get rid of it. See, and they know if they fail, they're going to get drunk. But they just can't come to this place where they're going to turn their will and their life over to God. So they're trying to do it on their own self-will. And it doesn't work. You can hear some of these people 10, 12, 15 years sober going through that stuff. Can't do it on our own. See? Step one is what? We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and what? Our lives have become unmanageable. Does this sound pretty unmanageable to you guys? It does to me. See, I began to see things like I can't rely on myself to rely on God. I always thought I could. Can't do it. Okay, so the last sentence there is we. Who's the we? The first 100 people had to. It was had to mean we must with God's help. No musts in this program, right? Don't tell me what to do about it, huh? See, we had to have God's help. There is no way we're going to get out of this trap that we are in on our own. So we're either going to find God, see, or we get to drink somewhere down the line. We get to be miserable, then we get to drink, and then pay whatever price happens as a result of that. Okay, so flip back now over to page 60 to the last paragraph, the very first sentence, where it says the first requirement, see, for the third step is what? We've got to be convinced that what? Hardly be a success. Okay? See, and they have just laid out a very convincing argument, see, for why that is. See, why we're not going to be able to live, see, sober, see, and selfish. Why we're not going to be able to live, see, without finding a higher power in our life. You can go for a while. See, some people go 10 years. Some people go 15 years. Some people go 20 years. Some people can only go 10 days. Just depends on how far the disease is progressed. Okay, but sooner or later, what happens? The ground gets you. See, sooner or later. Okay, Joe had a question.
Now, the question I have is self-will, self-reliance, self-esteem, all that self-stuff. In the doctor's opinion, it mentions about the person who came into his office after a year and says was brimming with self-reliance and confidence.
Contentment.
Contentment. And self-reliance, how does that, doesn't that kind of relate to all the self stuff?
Well, it does, but you got to remember Dr. Silkworth wasn't an alcoholic, nor was he a spiritually awakened guy. So from his point of view, see, it looked like that guy over there, see, God, he's got a lot of self-reliance that he didn't used to have. Seems to be very confident. He's had a lot of self-confidence that he didn't used to have. See, he's changed. See, so naturally, see, someone who is going to say, well, now you got self-reliance and self-confidence and that sort of stuff.
Well, I would say God-reliance.
Well, that's exactly what it is. See, my family still thinks that I'm sober on some kind of willpower that AA gave me. See, and they view me as a very self-confident guy now. Not at all. See, but there's no way I can explain to them what the difference is. See, they don't understand what I'm saying. See, when I tell them, see, that I have a whole lot of confidence, but it isn't mine. See, I operate on this, from this place called of myself, I'm nothing. See, I've proved what I can do in life. I have no confidence whatever in myself. And I got a lot of confidence in God. See, but it's a totally different deal, but that is not understandable, see, to most people. They just kind of glaze over, you know. They walk away. See, that lead one to an experience of God. See? Now, there's an interesting way you can look at this. See, I used to have that same question that a lot of people have. How do I know God's will versus my will and all that sort of stuff? Okay, well, let's look at page 59. Okay, what do you see on page 59? The steps. All right, now ask yourself, are those my will? Okay, now I'm up here, see, and are they my will? No, see, I drank for 25 years. I was dying. See, this was offered to me as a solution. Who offered it to me as a solution? My sponsor. See, this is not my sponsor's will. We could go ask Bill Wilson and we say, Bill, is that your will on page 59? He'd say, hell no, I was dying. See? The ideas for this were given to me by a guy named Ebby. See, we go talk to Ebby. Ebby, is this your will? He'd say, hell no. I was all fucked up. This was given to me by a couple of guys from the Oxford group. We go talk to these two guys. Their names were Roland and Sieber. Is this your will? And they said, hell no, we were all fucked up. See? Well, where'd you get them? Well, we got them from a guy named Frank Buckman. See? Well, we go talk to Frank. Hey, Frank, is this your will? He says, hell no. He said, I was over in England somewhere with a resentment. See? And this was given to me as a solution. See, well, where did it come from? Well, it's in these ancient, or whatever. See, so we hop in a time machine, we go back to wherever he got the ideas from. See, and we talk to Amos or Otis or whoever it is that wrote that, and say, hey, is that your will? And he says, hell no, I was all fucked up. See, somebody gave this to me as a solution. See, and we keep going back, see, looking for the author of these clear-cut directions. See, now they exist in a number of forms. Dr. Bob says there isn't a new idea in the lot, and there isn't really. See, these are spiritual principles that have been around for thousands and thousands of years, but if you look at it, if you really look into it, see, you never find the author of them. And yet what do? See, they lead a human being to an experience of what? God. Whose directions are they?
Directors.
Yeah, see, so if you want to know, see, the difference between your will and God's will, all you got to do is ask yourself, am I working the steps? See? If I'm not, whose will am I probably doing? Take a look. What's the evidence? See? When I started to work the steps and follow the directions, see, and do it precisely, my life changed. See? As long as I continue to practice spiritual principles, see, I get to stay sober. See? Try to help other alcoholics find exactly the same message. See? It worked for me. That's all I got to offer anybody. See? It worked for me. I didn't make it up. See? But it does work. I've seen it work in a lot of people. I'm one of them. See? I also see a lot of other stuff not work in a lot of people. See? So take your own look. So page 62, back on at the bottom paragraph. It says, next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, we are his agents, he is the father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are what? See? Are the ideas that you wrote down a little earlier, your ideas, are those simple? See? Or do they kind of get complicated? See? Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we did what? Pass to freedom. See, ask yourself, what is your point of view about these steps? I have a friend up in Sacramento, a guy named Ray, and he said, it seems to him that most of us view these as the 12 punishments. See? Not as a way to build an arch through which we can walk to freedom in our life. What do you view it as? See, I was from the punishment school. And coming from that school, see, my visions of God's will for me were all about, sacrifice and a horrible life and no sex and poverty and eating rice and all that kind of stuff. See, so what's your point of view on it? See, you might look and see where it comes from. See, most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. So is that what you're looking for? Everybody remember the story of Roland, and they talked about this guy had an experience which made him a free man. He could go anywhere without disaster. Okay? Totally free. He wasn't relying on himself and other human beings and, all that kind of human mental defense, to make his life work. Okay, top of page 63, we have a paragraph full of promises here at step 3. It says, when we sincerely took such a position. You might want to put the definition of sincere in your book. It means real and genuine and with no intent to deceive. Real and genuine and with no intent to deceive. Everybody remember the song, Are You Sincere? Okay. Are you sincere? See, I started to ask myself, it scared me when I really looked at it, see, because in my life I don't have any evidence of sincerity. See, when I got married, see, I was not sincere. The commitment I made wasn't sincere. The vows I took, the words I said, they weren't sincere. See, every job I've ever hired in on, I wasn't sincere. See, my honesty was insincere. See, my loyalty was insincere. See, my life is pretty much a menu of insincerity. So this whole business about sincerely taking such a position caused me a little bit of upset, see, because I don't know if I mean it or not. Anybody got any of that? Yeah, I don't know if I mean it. That kind of stuff. See, so it's something that we might ought to look at if you have trouble with it. See, and one other thing, I'd like to ask you. Is that, one of the definitions of sincere is no intent to deceive. So, is there any evidence in your life that you can be deceived? Have you ever been deceived by somebody else? Yeah, so have I. Have you ever deceived another? Okay, so there is some evidence of that. See, I can be deceived by other people. I can deceive other people. Not all the time, but some of the time. Okay, and I can deceive myself. You got any evidence that you can deceive yourself? Okay, see, now, if those 3 things are true, see, you might think of what are the only 2 things in the world, see, that can't be deceived if you're a real alcoholic. See, there's 2 of them. See, one of them's God, see, and the other one is we wrote it down on page 20 in our books in chapter 2. See, you might look at the definition you put in the margin of your book on page 20. The obsession. Which obsession? To drink alcohol and do drugs. See, that ain't going to get deceived either. See, everything else seems to be deceivable but those 2 things to me. That's something that you can look at. Okay. Back on page 63, it says, when we sincerely took such a position, stuff started to happen. All sorts of remarkable things followed. Anybody here ever had any remarkable things follow your decision? I have. Okay. It says we had a new job. What does your book say? Had a new employer. Okay. Being all-powerful, he provided what's the next word? Not what we wanted. Provided what we needed. What's a requirement? See? In the book, when there are promises, what happens? There are always requirements. So he provided what we needed if we kept close to him, performed his work well. See, I found that to be true. See, when I get off the path, see, my needs don't get met. When I'm on the path, they seem to get met. Some of them have to do with the question this gentleman asked in the back, see, about how do you know this, that, or the other thing in all these other areas of your life. It's part of what happens as a result of working the steps and continuing to practice spiritual principles. It's a pretty major promise. See, that God will provide what we need. See, but there is a requirement if we kept close to him and performed his work how? well. So how well do you do it? Ask yourself. Okay? Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in what? Ourselves. See? Less and less selfish. It doesn't say perfect. Okay? We became less and less selfish as we did what? Took action along these lines. See? So David's question was a very good one. See? Is perfection required? No. See? Does less and less mean perfect? See? Or does it mean it diminishes as you follow the directions? See? We became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. Wait a minute. Wait. See? Now, you guys have little plans and designs. That's clear to me. But my plans, see, and my scheme, this is important. See? What I'm up to, that's important. Yours are, God ought to change yours. See? I can see the foolishness of what you do. See, but my plans, my designs, no, not little. See? You ever had that point of view? See, what's it say? Our little plans and designs? See, so you might ask yourself logically, have you really come to believe that there is a power, see, in this universe that can restore you to sanity? See, probably has a plan for your life. Is your plan for your life, see, probably better than his plan for your life? Just something you can look at. See, more and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. See, so instead of trying to wrest satisfaction and figure it all out and, explain it and, all that kind of stuff, we find, see, that we have something to offer other people. See, which solves a hell of a lot of problems for a lot of us. See, it's a very simple idea. See, changing from selfish to altruistic. See, and that comes about as a result of making this decision and following the direction. See, so you might ask yourself, you want that? Okay, as we felt new power flow where? In. Where's the location of the experience we're looking for? Deep down in. See, the unsuspected inner resource that's talked about in the Appendix 2. Okay, as we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind. Anybody had any of that? My first experience of peace of mind scared me. Okay, so different. See, all the noise, see, that had been there all my life. See, wow, a little disturbing to have it all calm down. So we felt new power flow in as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life how? Right, now, if you actually do discover this, can page 52 remain the truth in your life? See, because that's not facing life successfully. Okay? So once we sincerely make this decision and get going, we begin to discover that we can face life successfully. But if we do that, all that stuff on page 52 cannot be true. See, it's mutually exclusive stuff. Let's see. Successfully, as we became conscious of his presence, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, or the hereafter. We were reborn. See, this is not a physical rebirth, it's a spiritual thing, spiritual awakening. Okay. See, now, some people, when they do step 3, right around this area of working the steps, see some very dramatic things begin to happen in their lives. And other people, it's not all that noticeable right at first. See? But whether dramatic things happen in your life at step 3 or whether they don't, doesn't make any difference. We all got to keep walking the path anyway. Okay? So don't worry about it if you, take the 3rd step and the skies don't open up, because they didn't open up for me at step 3. See? When I made my 3rd step decision, it was a decision, to seek the experience that they were talking about. See, I was committed to following the directions in the book. And the results I got from that 3rd step, were I suddenly had the willingness and the persistence and the understanding and the things that I needed at that point to be honest with myself on my 4th step. See, that was provided to me once I had made my 3rd step decision. It had never been there before. See, so for me, that was a pretty big deal. That was quite an effect. But I didn't have, some kind of white light, cosmic flash, the cosmic blueprints weren't shown to me. See, none of that kind of stuff happened. Okay, see, so if anybody got an idea that when you make your 3rd step decision, something really is supposed to happen? See, anybody think that? Okay, see, because that does get in people's way. They say, well, I made my decision, God didn't enter my life, must be no God, or this program must not work. See, that's not necessarily so. See, so there's lots of room, lots of various things happen. See, we're all in different places spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, and physically, and all that kind of stuff. See, so all you need to do is sincerely make your decision. That's it. Okay. Now, we were now at step 3. See, so here is the prayer. But where was the decision? Over on page 62 at the bottom. See, that was the simple and understandable terms that were talked about in chapter 2. See? So the decision's over there, the prayer's over here. Okay, so we're now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood it, what's the first word? God. Right? See, so does that does it make sense to you that there's an assumption here that you have come to believe that a power greater than you can restore you to sanity? So the first word is God, and we all started to take a look at our old ideas about God back in Bill's story. Right? See, but the next 3 words are equally important. First one is I, the next one is offer, and the next one is myself. See, this is an offer. Okay? An offer needs to be made. Okay? So what is the offer? So I'm going to give you a way to look at that if you're having trouble. If you're not having trouble, you might just maybe this will help you if you're working with other people and they're having trouble. What does this mean? I offer myself. It doesn't say I offer my booze and my drugs. It doesn't say I offer my marriage or my job. It says I offer myself. Okay, so who's this I and what's this self that's getting offered to God? Everybody know what an offer is? Here, take this. Okay. Here. Okay. That puts control of the situation in somebody else's hands, doesn't it? See? To make this offer implies that there is a possibility of rejection of the offer. Right? So anybody got any fears about that? See? That God might reject you. Okay? Well, you remember all the old ideas and stuff that they wrote about in chapter 4? About this is open to all people, no matter how far down the scale they've gone, no matter what their attitudes or sins, no matter how much you drank, whether you're a man or a woman. See? Any of that stuff? See? Tried to get us to look at that. See, this path is open to anybody whatsoever. See, and yet a lot of us do. See, I mean, we really have this fear that we are going to get rejected. See, by God or this higher power, however we understand it. Okay? So that might be one of the difficulties that you have to face. Okay? David was talking about the obstacles that happen on the path. See, this is a pretty major one for a lot of people. See, here at step 3. Okay? See, it is a fear that we are going to get rejected by God. God won't let us in. See? Now, a lot of times those ideas come out of religious training. See, when we were kids, I was raised a Catholic. Narrow is the gate. It's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. See, all those kind of things. Anybody thought that? Anybody been raised in a fundamentalist kind of a thing where they take the chapter on Genesis and they tell you if you're a woman you don't get in? Okay. Anybody got those kind of ideas? Okay. See, in the book, chapter 4, see, they were trying to ask us to look, see, at our old ideas and say, maybe it ain't true. Maybe this will work for us. See, if you're having problems, you got fears and prejudices about these things. Okay, so who's the I and who's myself? Okay, now this is just something I did because I had a lot of trouble with this. You can, what I put up here, I'm not saying it's true for you, it's just my own experience. See, you can take your own look. Okay, I had to admit to myself that I am really an alcoholic. I had spent a year or so trying to cha-cha around that and hoped that I was just a hard drinker. With a few anxiety problems and some relationship problems, but not really an alcoholic. See, so that means I'm powerless. It means that I'm sick. See, I have this disease. See, and it's mental and physical in nature. It isn't going to go away. It's not treatable, and it's going to progress. Okay? Literally, I am doomed to relapse. That's what you see. That's what's going on with me. I was also the actor that they talked about. Okay? Trying to have my own way, even when I was trying to be a nice guy. My basic trouble was my own self-seeking. All true about me. Clear I couldn't change that. all those kind of things. See, so, just look. See, what is that? See, who's this I that's making the offer? And what is this self, see, that I'm offering? See, is it my whole life or isn't it? What does that mean? See, is that my emotions, feelings, see, and all that kind of stuff? Is it my desires and wants? Okay. My obsession to drink alcohol? My plans and designs? Okay. How about my pride? How about my old ideas? See, my theories and philosophical convictions galore that I hang on to? Okay. Is that all part of it? What is it? See, what are the troubles? Who is the I? Who is this self? See, what are you actually offering to God? See, the reason I spent a lot of time talking about this is I had a whole lot of trouble, see, with this step. Scared the hell out of me. See, I want to tell you one more thing that I ran into, one more of those obstacles, was that I had always had the belief that God only helps good people. Anybody ever thought that? Believe that in your life? God only helps good people. Okay, so here I am in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's pretty clear to me I don't fit in that category, see, of good people. See, no matter what I'm showing to everybody else, no matter what the act was out here, the inside, I knew, see, I'm not a good people. See, I got all this selfishness, and I got all this sex stuff, and I got all these things going on, my greed, all that sort of junk. And I kept trying to get myself from this place where I felt like that to this place over here where God would help me, and then I was going to take the third step at that point. See, once I could, cover all my crap with a ribbon, see, or solve it somehow, reduce the self-centeredness, see, then I was going to make the package look acceptable to God when I offered it to God. See, but no matter how I wrapped it up, no matter how I worked on it, see, I could never stay here. I always ended up back over here, not a good people. See, and what I had to face was that I have to offer myself to God in the condition that I'm in, not with whipped cream on it. See, and that really messed with my pride. See, that really, really messed with my pride. See, that was like standing naked before God, just the way I am. See, with all the sins, all the stuff that I had. See, all the greed, all the selfishness, the whole enchilada, put a light on it and go, I need some help. Just like that. See? And that really messed with me. That was really, really hard for me to do. See? It was to offer myself to God in the condition that I actually exist, not in some covered up, smoothed over kind of a thing. And this was a big problem for me. See? And I finally just had to accept that. See? And then do it that way. Okay? See? And it worked. See? So then I discovered, as a result of doing that, continuing on with the steps, see, that God answers prayers from people who are sincere. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're good or not. See? That's my experience, and that's said in a different way over in chapter 4. Remember they said God doesn't make too hard terms with those who seek Him? See? So, see, really the hard terms and all the difficulty I was having with all this came out of my own beliefs and my own old ideas. See? And I just kept getting stuck in them until I started to look at it, see, and to take it apart somewhat. See? So I just bring all this up, share my own experience of it in case any of you are having those kind of difficulties. There are some things that you can look at. See? Okay, everybody got that? Okay, so we're now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker, as we understood Him, God, I offer myself to Thee. Okay? To build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt, see, according to God's will for me. All right, now, you may have had this experience. You drive to work, and one day you go around a corner. Now, on a corner, there has been an old building, but now in front of the old building, there is a sign with a picture of a shopping mall on it, and it says, on spring 1993, this will be completed. See, but it's just a sign in front of the old building. And you go, whoa, there's a little refurbishment going on here. See, so 3 days later, you drive by the same corner on your way to work. The sign is still out there, but now there is a wooden partition out on the sidewalk, see, and a lot of activity going on inside. See, and 3 days later, you drive by there. See, there's the sign, the wooden partition, and the building that was there is no longer there. You see a bunch of trucks hauling the debris out. Okay, see, and then once that debris is out, then they bring a bunch of D9 caterpillars and backhoes and all that. What do? They dig down, and then they haul all that out. See, and once all of that is cleared away, then they start pouring concrete and rebar as a foundation for this new shopping mall that they're going to build there. See, and then every day as you go by, you can see that, see, a new thing is getting built. See, and probably 6 months after whatever date is on the sign, the thing opens up. See, so where did the process of building the mall actually start? With the demolition, see, of the old. See, that's where it started. See, the foundation had to be laid, see, for this new thing to happen. Okay, see, so if building is going to go on and we don't seem to be able to do our own building, what are we saying here? See, to build with me and to do with me, see, as thou wilt. See, and just ask yourself a question. Step 4 look like a demolition or a build to you? Yeah, see, it's the house cleaning it's called. Okay, see, so it starts there. You can't put something new where the old still exists. Okay, see, so we're asking God. See, we're offering ourselves to God to build with me and to do with me. See, what does do mean? Direct. See, according to God's will. Okay, relieve me of the bondage of cocaine, booze, and Johnny Walker. Is that what it says? Bondage of what?
So,
Do you see any self-bondage? See, as a result of going through, see, this step 3 stuff. Is that what's got you? Okay, relieve me of the bondage of self. See, it used to amaze me. I couldn't figure out when I was new in AA why, since I was sober, my life didn't work. I was baffled by that. See, I never understood that the bondage wasn't the booze. Okay, that the bondage was arising out of myself. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. See, so you can see in this prayer, already this idea of altruism has begun to enter. See, we're not doing this for a selfish motive. See, we're offering ourselves. We want to get our house clean, our lives straightened up so that we can, see, begin to follow God's will in our life. Okay, take away my difficulties. What are your difficulties? See, the first 700 or 800 times I read this, I thought my difficulties were lack of rent, no car, I'm not getting laid, no cigarettes. Those are my difficulties. See, but maybe the difficulties they're talking about here have to do with my spiritual difficulties. See, maybe they have to do with things like unwillingness and indecision and confusion and all that sort of stuff. Maybe they have to do with fear and old ideas and pride. See, maybe those are my real difficulties. Maybe those are the reason I can't get past, see, the steps, get them done. See? Take away my difficulties, see? So that's part of what I'm offering to God, see, when I offer myself as I am, all these difficulties that I have, see, with the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay? I'm going to now rely on God for the power and the things that I need to complete the steps. Take away my difficulties. Why? So that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help. Who are the people you would help? See? Would you like to be of some help to other people in Alcoholics Anonymous? See? Are there other human beings besides people in Alcoholics Anonymous? Families, friends, where you work, strangers on the street? See? You got any desire whatsoever to be of service to your fellow man? See? Anybody had trouble with that? See? You want to do it, don't seem to be able to find a way to do it, all that kind of stuff? See? Maybe it's the unclean house. See? Maybe it's the lack of spiritual awakening and a method, see, that's in the way of being of service to people. That's a kind of interesting concept. See? Something you might look at. People I would help. Who are the people you would help? See, a lot of folks need help. We get newcomers all the time in AA. See, a lot of them need help. Okay, let's see. Take away my difficulties. The victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. Okay, what I was in AA to demonstrate my first year was my power, my love, and my way of life. Okay? That's what I was doing. See, in here, talking and dealing and see all that. Look at me. Look what I've done in AA. My power, my love, my way of life. See? What are you demonstrating? Okay? Just take a look. Okay? Thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will Saturday afternoon, Tuesday morning, Wednesday when somebody from AA is around. May I do thy will when? Always. What does always mean?
4 hours today.
Yeah. Anybody in here got a 9 to 5 disease? Check in at 9 o'clock, check out at 5, you're free the rest of the day. I'm gone. No obsession, you're in no danger of relapse after 5 o'clock, right? And do thy will always. Okay, now here comes a very important direction. As we thought well before taking this step. Which step? Step 3, making this decision. See, we thought well before doing it. See, making sure that we were ready. See, that we could, at last, abandon ourselves utterly to Him. Remember they called this the turning point? We stood at the turning point. See, and we asked His protection and care with complete abandon, page 59. Okay, does that sound like a pretty serious decision to you? Does it sound like a matter of life and death to you if you're an alcoholic? Spiritual defense versus mental defense. See, are you convinced of the things we've been reading in the book? Are they factual and true for you? Nobody can tell you but yourself. See, but it's pretty clear cut, see, that they are saying, see, think it over before you get into this. Be sure, be clear. We thought well before taking this step, making sure we were ready, that we could, at last, abandon ourselves utterly to Him. Okay, and that's where we're going to stop for today. And those of you who are going to make a decision, if you're serious about taking steps, so if you're going to make a decision